It's a fan takeover edition, and I'm trying to do it in one take. Let's play the video. Nothing but top-notch production here at the following conversation is scheduled for one fall. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the voice, Cheyenne Ortiz, and welcome to a special fan takeover Q&A edition of the program. How smooth was that, baby? Butter, like butter. Bosch is very, very proud of that moment in time. I mean, here we are. I mean, this is episode 7, 8, 9, who knows what it is. We're here doing the podcast, and I wanted to open up to a Q&A fan edition for many reasons. If I'm being honest, first of all, here we are doing episode number 8 fan Q&A. The guest that I had in mind to interview, unfortunately, got sick. So I just want to shout him out. He doesn't even know that I had him in mind. But once I saw that he was under the weather, I could not even contact him. So I just want to shout out Shane Fair, ringing out to extraordinaire. Shane Fair, white glove treatment. Shane, I'm thinking of you. I love you. I hope you get better soon. The Kingdom is looking forward to your triumphant return at Pro Wrestling Magic. Last person standing this coming Saturday at the Mecca in Richfield Park, New Jersey. So Shane, I'm thinking of you, and when you're ready to talk shop, I'm always here for you, brother. Shane Fair, one of the only good guys in the pro wrestling business. So I'm thinking of you, and we will certainly get together and get an interview going soon, because believe it or not, Shane, you're one of the reasons that I want to do this podcast. You're one of the people that I wanted to interview and just kind of get a career depth in, and of course talk shop and stuff. So Shane, I love you. I'm thinking of you. I'm looking over. We are recording. We're 2 minutes and 20 seconds in, give or take. Trying to do this in one take. Another reason too is, last week I didn't have a guest for you. So I took last week to schedule a bunch of people for the program, and I'm happy to say that we've got guests coming in all the way into May. I'm already booking people into the first weekend of May. The show may start airing on Tuesdays, but if I do it right, I could get it done on Mondays nonetheless, but an evening upload instead of you guys riding around during drive time listening to me. So we're going to experiment for a little bit in terms of that. I just want to thank all of you, however many of you it is, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you so much for joining me for this leg of the journey. I've been wanting to do a podcast pretty much since 2020, 2021. I got the itch again when Lou Acosta decided to have me and Bosch on for his podcast, What a Time to Be Alive. Lou Acosta, Acosta's Life, Acosta is Living. He had us on for this Scott Hall tribute episode after the unfortunate passing of Scott Hall. And I was so honored to be on, and just got the bug again and just kind of sat on it for a while. And then I was in all these car rides talking to different people like Shane Fair. I was having these conversations and philosophies about wrestling with like Mike Morgan and Gino Caruso. And, luckily some of the people that I wanted to interview, I have already interviewed. And luckily, I'm talking to the people that I also wanted to do this program with. I also felt like podcasters were kind of asking things that I felt were, low-hanging fruit. We always have the obvious questions and the things we want to know, be it we as a community or as individuals, but I felt like everybody was just kind of asking very lazy, laborious things. And I felt it was my duty, almost, as arrogant as that sounds, to kind of provide an alternative out there with pro wrestling podcasts. So having said that, I did not want to take another week off. Consistency is key to almost anything in life, let alone pro wrestling, podcasting, or entertainment. And even though I don't always practice what I preach, I always try to preach what I wish I could practice more often. So with that being said, I've got some questions here. Thank God they're not inappropriate, because I was worried. I did have the show open to anybody who wanted to join and jump in. But as of now, no takers. If somebody pops up, they're coming on this program. I've got stuff here. So what I did was I took all the questions from Facebook because that's where I got it pretty much the least, Facebook and Twitter, and I just copied and pasted them, put on this printout here, email it to myself. I got some other stuff from Ask Me Anything, and then I'm going to open up my cell phone to get to all the Instagram questions that I got on the Ask Question box because I didn't want to do the whole video portion of the program just staring at my phone. For those of you listening, wherever you listen to your podcast, you wouldn't have to endure that. But I try to have that connection whenever I do the filming. You know, eye contact means nothing without eye contact. All right, creepy moment of the day. All right, we're gonna open this up. Let's start with the Facebook questions. Let's just go right there. Here we go. Mustafa Jones wants to know, why do some people like their cucumbers pickled? Okay. Somebody's spending too much time at the coffee shop there. I don't know. Maybe they want to have their pickled peppers picked. Mustafa Jones. That's a unique name. Must be Albanian. Here's another one from Facebook. You are gifted a certificate that is good for one. Okay. You are gifted a certificate that is good for one chain restaurant. You will be the owner of that chain restaurant, and you have the ability to change anything you'd like about it with no pushback from corporate. What chain restaurant is it, and what will change to really make it yours? What will you really change to make it yours? That's from Alejandro Contreras from the Bay Area of California and cousin or great grandnephew, rather, of Antonio Inoki. Son! You know what? You know what restaurant I have a real soft spot for? I never eat there anymore. But when I look at it, I get very, very fond memories because when I was a young lad, taking ladies out on a date with my own money. I always worked. I always had my own money. And I would go there with friends, with Xavier, Bosch, a lot of different people, Superstar JV, a lot of guys. And when I pass by it twice a month now, going to Port Authority to get on the road for wrestling shows. Applebee's. I love Applebee's. Applebee's is like nighttime IHOP, right? Because like their menu hasn't changed. They're always advertising, a 2 for $30 or a 4 for $50. I get it. It's supposed to be that healthy mix between, inexpensive date night and family friendly, right? And ultimately, when you want to feed, if you have a family and you want to feed a bunch of people, but get them a nice meal, you'll go to an Applebee's, an Outback, a Chili's, stuff like that. Same thing with IHOP. I feel like the Applebee's menu has not evolved. While IHOP is predicated on, obviously, the breakfast, quarterly or even like 2 times a year, you'll see some special thing pop up for the breakfast. At least they'll have a new pancake gimmick or they'll have a new egg thing. With Applebee's, you just kind of see like new combo deals, and that's it for the same menu. The other thing with Applebee's too, I don't know if this is all locations, but I feel like the liquor is not up to par. And I know you're thinking, oh, Applebee's, they got the $8 things, the $5 this, the da da da. That's not a top tier liquor. That's something they want to get rid of usually, and that's something like that's frosted and icy and something that they could just pump out quick. I can remember the last time I had a Jack and Coke, and neither the Jack or Coke were by name, if you know what I'm saying, brother. So Applebee's, if you listen, I don't know if you need somebody to come into the boardroom, shake things up a little bit, but I'm your guy. Or I could just do voiceovers for you. You know what I'm saying? Need to feed a family of 4, need to get some good liquor, need a good steak, need inexpensive chicken wings. Go to Applebee's. All right, there it is. This one also from Facebook. I have 2 questions, one wrestling based and one that's general chicanery. Who are your top 3 glaring omissions from the WWE Hall of Fame? And do you consider a hot dog to be a sandwich? And if so, your supporting argument. Lou Acosta. Acosta is life. Acosta is living. There's proof for that there. Obviously, Lou, for our fan base, I got to go for the low-hanging fruit. I got to go for the question that obviously of your 2, everybody wants me to answer. Is a hot dog a sandwich? This is my exact answer. A hot dog is its own entity, just like a hamburger. No one says I'm going to go have a beef patty sandwich. No one says I'm going to have an inexpensive sausage sandwich. They say I'm going to have a hot dog. I'm going to have a hamburger. However, it's in between 2 pieces of bread, ergo, sandwich. Put it to you like this, for those of you who think I know nothing of anything other than wrestling. The Yankees are a team within the MLB, right? Okay. However, the Yankees are an entity in and out of itself. How's that for you? Okay. Take that back to your mom. And who are your top three glaring omissions from the WWE Hall of Fame? For years the answer was Rick Rude. I mean, that one really, really hurt my soul. A lot of people when Rick Rude finally got inducted felt like I was getting inducted because they knew what it meant to me. Same way when Randy Savage finally got inducted. That was like one of those first campaigns that the internet like need him in. Same with the Bulldogs and everybody else. Number one, Rick Martel. Rick Martel not being in the Hall of Fame is a massive disservice. Here's a guy who worked from pretty much rock and wrestling tail end of that, all even before that, if you really think about it, because he was tag team champions and in the WWF even, all the way up to the beginning of the new gen. He's also the guy that passed the torch to Razor Ramon. I think that's who Razor beat to become an Intercontinental Champion for the third time, right? That awesome Monday Night Raw match, one of my favorite Monday Night Raw matches ever. Bobby Heenan is so good on that commentary. So Rick Martel is always someone I go to. Plus, it was brief because of injury, but his WCW run is amazing if you really think about it. So there's that. Rick Martel. Look, Akeem, one man gang, whatever you call it, the fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame, blasphemous. Here's a guy that worked Mid-South, world class, WWE as Akeem, as a one man gang, worked Hogan, worked Savage, worked the Von Erichs, Andre with Kamala, all types of guys. I'm going to try to deviate from the 80s, and I'm going to give you more obscure pick, more of quote unquote my era. The Hollies, Hardcore and Crash. Well, I would put them in as a team and have them inducted by Molly. I mean, the Attitude Era, and again for Hardcore Holly, the New Gen era. I mean, why aren't they in? Crash at one point was the face of the hardcore division, was the poster child for it. A lot of people feel like once Crash Holly was out of that picture, the division suffered, or the comedy behind it just wasn't the same. And he was so entertaining. Hardcore Holly, one of the most respected workers and veterans of his era. There's guys that still sing his praises as a locker room leader and a teacher. One of the best wrestling books I ever read was Hardcore Holly's book. But yeah, the Hollies going in as a unit, I think, is awesome and really should happen for the Attitude Era. So yeah, those are my answers. This comes from my man Jeff. I met Jeff through the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Facebook group, and he's just been like, I don't even know Jeff. I haven't even met Jeff. Jeff Managlia. Anyway, Big Jeff has been such a supporter of the show, so I just want to shout him out real quick. He's also got 2 questions. This is from Jeff, whatever his name is. With you being a jack of all trades as far as being an announcer, commentator, manager, that's very nice of you to say, Jeff. Who are some of your influences, inspirations for each of those fields? I love this question, this first question, and the second one being, you can go back in time and take part in commentary on 3 matches. What would they be? That one's really spicy. I like that one. That's pretty emotional too. I'm going to answer the first one. Jack of all trades. Who are your inspirations as an announcer, commentator, manager, etc.? For announcer, it's low-hanging fruit, but I mean, I am a big fan of Mean Gene. Mean Gene, in a lot of ways, was the face of so many things that happened in pro wrestling, right? As I turn my TV off and completely edit the fluidity of the video portion of this broadcast. Mean Gene he gave you the scoop, right? If you heard it from Mean Gene, it was the gospel, it was the truth. And that straight man mentality, I carried that for a lot of years and still do when I do the backstage interviews in the indies. Another guy that I absolutely love, Sean Mooney. Sean Mooney, to me, completely unsung for his work with the WWE, all the way up to, those early Monday Night Raw episodes. Just awesome. From the backstage interviews to hosting the Coliseum videos. He was another jack of all trades. And those were the guys that I gravitated to, the guys that you saw that could do anything. So for the backstage stuff, yeah, those would probably be the 2 that I idolized and emulated the most, especially when I first started, because I really had to keep that straight sense. And I try my best. I'm already a character as it is, or at least I'm labeled as such by so many people. I think I'm just me. So I try not to be a character on TV. I know sometimes I'll crack jokes and stuff like that, but it's not about me. You know, if you really think about it, Mean Gene knew when to be a character and knew when to be the broadcaster. And I try to emulate that, the switch of those two things. Same with Sean Mooney as well. From a commentary standpoint, look, I know it's not PC to say this right now, but Vince McMahon as a commentator, underrated. We're gonna go to a point where talk take the other stuff out. We're gonna go to a point where we're not even gonna talk about him as a commentator. We're gonna know him as a on-screen character and everything else that is going on in his career. Vince is a commentator for me, from my era, born in 1990. He was the voice. So there was Vince, obviously Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, who I love. I'm so happy he's back in wrestling. And of course, like Ventura, Heenan. But yeah, the main three were Vince, Schiavone, and JR. And I always did lead, and when I played with my action figures and did commentary, I usually emulated any of those guys. I was always doing what a maneuver, or good God Almighty, or you know, I didn't do it Sting, but I would try to do like a lot of the calls that Schiavone would have with Flair and Savage, because he really, if you really think about it, he was the voice of that feud. Because Flair and Savage had so many great matches in WCW, maybe even too many, if you really think about it. I mean, they were all good, but maybe they had too many matches. So those are that. From a manager standpoint, low hanging fruit, bro, Bobby Heenan. I want to be Bobby Heenan. When I got the opportunity to manage all the spots I did, and I didn't manage for long. What was it, 3-4 months tops? All the spots I did were based on Bobby Heenan spots, because I knew that my bumps looked like shit, and I knew that I couldn't take every move. So I kind of, since Heenan from pretty much 87 did less and less physical work because of his broken neck that he didn't have fixed until what, 94, 95. I based it around that. So I always, like, if I had to run from the heel, I would throw myself over the top rope before the heel could get to me. If I took something physical, it would be a bump that I controlled. So one time I took an atomic drop, super 80 spot. I took an atomic drop from a guy. I think this was in upstate New York. And when he dropped me, I launched myself into the top turnbuckle. It was all controlled. Everything I did was really on my own. But from the managing standpoint, yeah, Bobby Heenan was the one. And I loved, I also stole from Heyman from the managing stuff, because Heyman, even if you go back to the AWA stuff, Heyman was like, he always had a camera on him, and he always knew that. Heel managers kind of didn't play to the camera when they were ringside. They would just stare stoically at the match, at their clients, at whoever they represented. Heyman was there, doing Godfather. He was doing Scorsese stuff when the camera hit him at ringside. He really changed the game for showing emotion at ringside. Heenan did too, obviously, because Heenan was always on. But the way Heyman did it, does it rather, even now, is a totally different thing. Also from Jeff, you can go back in time and take part in commentary on 3 matches. What would they be? I would have to choose matches that I heavily know the story, the coursework, if you will. So some of them are going to be not a surprise. Some of them are going to be, of the 3, are going to be shockers. I would have loved to have called Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. I did a live stream, and I offered alternative commentary to WrestleMania 2 years ago. And when Cody came back, and again, I watch wrestling every week. I follow it. I know what's happening. That was one of the few matches outside the indies that I felt so prepared for. Mind you, we weren't really sure if Cody was going to show up at WrestleMania. We really weren't. Then The Undertaker with the curveball the night before, never say never. Then it became, what if it's Taker and Rollins? All these things to give Taker a proper, send off in front of fans. So that's one of them. Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. That would definitely be one of the matches that I would have loved to have called. A match that changed my life, because it's the reason I fell in love with wrestling. Randy Savage versus Ted DiBiase, WrestleMania 4. I mean, I wasn't born yet, but I would have loved to have called that. I mean, that match, it changed my life. I get emotional when I watch it and talk about it. For number 3, because I saw it live, and it was the first time I had felt good about tag team wrestling live in a while. DIY versus the Revival at Takeover. I was floored, and I hadn't seen them yet. I was so behind in NXT. I kept hearing about them, but I hadn't seen either one of these teams yet. And I was at the Barclays Center, man, and they just tore the house down. It just tore the house down. It was one of those matches where it was like, follow that. Yeah. So there it is. From an indie standpoint, I also want to shout out Chris Cage versus Papadon. Was awesome. Last year, I believe it was. And Dan Moff versus Crowbar recently happened on ISPW, and I really wish that I could have called that. I think that if me and Rob Williams call the match one-on-one, a lot of people would reconsider their life decisions. Just saying. Fourth Floor Dan wants to know, is there anything you can explain about some of the dangers of wrestling and the stunts and the illusions behind them? That's from Fourth Floor Dan. This is from, Dan pulled me aside earlier, and he said that he saw this clip on Instagram where he was convinced the guy broke his neck. And I said, well, if you send me the clip, I will air it on the show and kind of analyze it. And he's like, I saw this like a week ago. I can't find it now. So what I can kind of generalize with that is, everybody knows what's up with wrestling. And yes, it is a very controlled environment. Obviously, accidents do happen. There are some of the stunts that happen, with tables and ladders and jumping from one end to the other, where there's massive safety precautions and it's practiced and things like that. And then there's other things that happen on the fly, or not so much that they're planned, and it's just athleticism and dedicated training, and they just happen. But you never know. Obviously, we're learning that pro wrestling, like Hollywood, even though it's a controlled environment, you just never know. But everybody's a trained professional, and usually it's an idea that, it takes a couple rounds before anybody just says yes. So, that's kind of what I could tell you about that. That, if I'm not mistaken, wraps it up for the Facebook section of the questions. And you know what? Let's try to keep this as fluid of a show as possible. Let's take a commercial break. What do you mean by take a commercial break? Well, I'm going to tell you what we mean by take a commercial break. Let's use AI for the betterment of good. Okay, and what do you mean by that? I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to go here into my AI app, if you will, and I'm going to try to, for the benefit of good, okay, I'm going to try to get a commercial going here. Let's see. I think I have the one from the Felicia Rose episode. Ask the web on chat on. This is just an update for all the things that I got. An update for all the things that I got in the app, and I'm stalling, and I'm not a fan of the fluidity, if you will, of where the show is going. So here we are. You know what? I'm going to, because I'm panicking internally, I'm going to go right to the commercial I did for Felicia Rose. And here we go. Let's take you now to your commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to unleash your inner champion with the ultimate hairstyling solution. Introducing Ring Ready Hair Gel. Are you tired of your hair getting pinned down? Do you want hair that stands tall and strong like a wrestling champion? Look no further. Ring Ready Hair Gel is here to take your hair game to the next level. With our specially formulated hair gel, you'll experience unbeatable hold and amazing flexibility. Whether you're rocking a spiky mohawk or a slick back style, Ring Ready Hair Gel has got you covered. And that's not all. Our unique wrestling-inspired formula will keep your hair looking fierce and ready for any battle, just like your favorite wrestlers in the ring or superstars. So step into the arena and style and profile and get Ring Ready Hair Gel today. Don't settle for anything less than championship-worthy hair. There you go. Feel better now. I got that commercial in, and we're back here on the following conversation is scheduled for one fall. Fan takeover Q&A. We're looking for one take on this one. We're gonna go to Twitter now for some fan questions. This one comes from Tonic Mustard Wielder 6969. Why did you blindside me with a dildo and hit me with a traffic cone? Okay. I got nothing. Seaside Elvis 87 wants to know if you could manage any heel faction like the Dangerous Alliance, who would you choose? Oh man, it's got to be a group that's kind of beneficial for everyone. Um, and in theory, it's people that can't talk that eventually you help them speak when you're no longer needed. Uh, I probably don't fit the group, but maybe the Blackpool Combat Club. I don't want to go for the low hanging fruit. I don't want to pick the Horsemen or the Dangerous Alliance, groups that I love. Maybe the Blackpool Combat Club, or maybe even Revolution. How's that? Malenko, Shane Douglas, Perry Saturn, those guys. Yeah, why not? There's a unique answer. It's got to be beneficial for me too. Revolution was only a group for like 6 business days. Uh, let's see. Not the League of Nations. I want to think of a good group that I think I would have kind of sort of. You know what? When Randy Orton was with DIY for a little bit, they weren't an official group either. I don't know what faction would I have. Huh. Hmm. The West Texas Rednecks. There you go. I don't know. No, that's not good. Uh, uh, what is your favorite toy line? Turquoise get well soon person. What is my favorite toy line? Obviously, it's a WWE line. I have a strong emotional connection with the WWE Jack's Classic Superstars line, but I really have been, even though I can never find them, I really have grown to love the Target Legends, the WWE Legends line, the Target. I have almost all of them. My goal is by the end of the year to have all the Legends from the first gen, but all the Target ones, I'm I'm almost caught up, but I'm not that far behind either. I've been buying signed ones to compensate for not having full lines. So that way, when I fill it up, I could just get the ones that are unsigned, which will be cheaper. I just got a signed Head Shrinker's Samu and a signed Farouk from that line, from those 2 series. So that's my answer on that um, right now. These were from an Ask Me Anything box that I put on Reddit. When did you start wearing suits? From Since Grandma in 1990. I started wearing suits when I was 13 years old. Um, when I got my first announcing gig, I felt like I should wear a suit. I just felt like I should. That was the way to go. And then when I went to high school, for reasons that I'll say for therapy, not for this. When I went to high school, I decided that I wanted to wear a suit and tie every day or a shirt and tie every day, and I wore dress clothes every day, no less than 5 days a week, sometimes seven, from 2004 to 2009, maybe 2010. No less than 5 days a week between the 4 years of high school, and then we would go to church on Sundays. So a lot of times that'd be the extra day. And then when I got my job, when I first got my job out of high school, I was an assistant director for after school programs. So I just kept the dress up look going. A lot of times, yeah, I'd wear jeans and stuff like that, and dress down Friday and stuff like that. But yeah, I've pretty much been wearing full blown suits since I'm 13. Pretty much, I still have the first suit. I obviously don't fit into it, believe it or not. But the first suit that my mom ever bought me, I still have. I won't. Can't get rid of it. Yeah. So there's that. So that's always a good always a good topic to discuss, and I love it. You know how I never feel more like me than when I have a suit on. It just, yeah, I know that a lot of times some people have been impressed with when I wear jeans and the jackets that I wear and stuff like that because I'm a big jacket guy and stuff. But me in a suit and tie is my authentic self. If it was up to me, there's nothing else I'd rather wear every day. But the dry cleaning bill, brother, I tell you, it's hard to do Ric Flair without Ric Flair money. Just saying. And I know somebody's like, he doesn't have any money. Try now. He's got a lot of money. How's that? Why don't you watch your mouth? Okay. What was the first time you did announcing at Alfredo is Real? The first time that I did announcing was 2000 and it was winter of 2003. I was 13 years old. I was in junior high. I was in the 8th grade. And John DiMatteo, one of my first mentors was John DiMatteo and Al Guerrero, Mr. G. John DiMatteo organized the students versus teachers basketball game at 126 MAT Academy. And he wanted me to be the announcer, the host, the commentator, all of that. The MC. He always referred to me as master of ceremonies. And in this moment, I realized he never called me specifically an announcer. He always called me the master of ceremonies. I'm going to ask him why that was. I should have him on the show. So that was the first time I called a basketball game. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, but you don't know anything about basketball. And to be honest with you, contrary to belief, you're absolutely right. I didn't know shit. But I knew, I think that's why I love trial by fire. I think that's why I'm so, hey, Cheyenne, could you do this? And okay, you know, because you just got to get out there. I think that's why usually I just want to do it. Usually it's just one take. I'm not trying to be rude, but a lot of times, a lot of things that I film, it's luckily one take. Stuff that I don't have to think much about it, just get it out there. But that was the first time I did announcing, and I was in front of a crowd, like a real crowd. Like it was this rec center. And there's something about when you're standing in the middle of a basketball court and all the bleachers are filled, and it's those pull-out bleachers that they look like they go on forever, and they're probably like 10 to 15 rows high if you really think about it. Sometimes more, because I've been in some rec centers where it's like 20 rows tall. And it's filled end to end. It perception's reality, and it looks like thousands and thousands of people. And that thrill of performing comes from that in that moment. So that's the first one. And I gotta superstar Johnny D. I gotta shout him out. I'm always indebted to him. I try to talk to him a couple times a year, and whenever his birthday comes, I always there is no me without him. Because even in that moment at 13 years old, had I not done that, I don't believe I'd be doing even this or wrestling or announcing or anything. Honest. It took that. He was like, this is what this kid should be doing. He knew I wasn't a good basketball player. Not that I tried or played, but he knew that athletics was not my passion. He legitimately found my passion and put me out there. People are like, oh, you should do this. You should do that. Yada. He literally said, this is what you're going to do. And yeah, that was a fun fact. He, God bless him. And had I known, I probably would have. Anyway, fun fact. He didn't have a team at that time. It was just me and him. So I'm setting up the court, the basketball courts, like 6:30 in the morning. I'm 13 years old. I'm already pissed because I'm like, why the hell am I up so early? So I'm helping him set up the court, doing all these things, tables, chairs, bleachers, setting up stuff, getting water for the basketball team, for the teachers, whatever. And all of a sudden, nobody knows where John is. And this is in the flip phone era. So you had to call. Like Texas were kind of a pain in the ass back then because of the keyboards, right? Those of you that remember. John forgot to bring my microphone because John was in a band, and all the stuff he brought were his amps, his switchboards, his tuners and stuff like that. So all that stuff he brought from his house and his Jeep Grand Cherokee that he used to drive at the time. Love that car. He hated it. I loved it. Anytime we'd go eat and he'd say, "Hey, I got the Jeep," I'd jump in. He only liked the car when I was in it. So anyway, John ran back to his house to go get my microphone because he knew that it would kill me if I couldn't do it because I've been prepping so much and I was so prepared and looking forward to it. So yeah, John is a special guy. If you ever meet John DiMatteo, special guy. And yes, relation to Drea DiMatteo of The Sopranos. Did you ever consider a career in stand-up comedy at You Are in Pain? I have, but the problem is, and I've said this many times through the years, as funny as I am, as quick as I am, it just comes out. It's like carbon monoxide. I've never tried, but I have never put jokes pen to paper. I've never done an act, a bit, of this or that. I've got tons and tons of stories, and yeah, that can be translated into jokes and routines and bits and things. But I've never tried to come up with a set with 5 minutes, with 8, 15 minutes. as it would. But that's pretty much the story of that. Favorite PS2 game at not Leo the Lion. Gun to my head. It's gonna shock a few people. Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. And I know you're like, oh, not Here Comes the Pain, not this. I mean, yeah, I love all those games, the Legends of Wrestling series, stuff like that. Metal Gear Solid 2 was the first game I ever played that it felt like a movie. It felt like a movie. The way that we love video games now, The Last of Us, Spider-Man, Call of Duty, things like that. There was something about that game for me, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, that it felt like a movie, that I had this connection with, that I was engrossed with, that I literally was hooked on. And it was not like this standard video game of do this, beat that guy up, finish this time. It felt like a film. It felt like I was part of the story, not that I was playing the story, that I had to succeed, so that's always usually the PS2 game that, outside of wrestling, that I always go back to, because it's not wrestling, because because I get so involved in it, I really can't play it unless I have nothing to do, because it's not like I can go play a match and be done and get a fix in. It's not recreational. It's a hobby. That game, if that makes any sense at all. Were you always funny, or did it come later inside the Lipton 12? I was always funny. I always said jokes that people didn't get. I always said adult jokes. And when I say adult jokes, I don't mean like crude or cursing or stuff like that. But yeah, I was always funny. And I always watched comedies, and I always took stuff from movies. And when you grew up in an era of 90s cables and reruns, you were either going to be a wise ass or you were going to be funny. Like funny. So I've always been funny. I've always been great. And my parents are funny. It's genetic. There's a lot of funny people in the family, or as we like to say, there's a lot of funny motherfuckers in this family. So there's that. But yeah, I've always been pretty funny. Who are some ring announcers and commentators you enjoy at TB Lounge 2008? I guess from an indie standpoint, right? TB Lounge. Ring announcer wise, I love Shane Fair. I love Ryan Peterson. Ryan Peterson and Shane Fair are probably two of the ring announcers on the Indies Northeast that really, really have a TV presence. So I love those guys. So there's that. So those are the two there. I absolutely love Ronnie Garvin herself, Lacey Almeida. It's a matter of time before she's on TV and forgets all about me. Lacey Almeida's great. I love Samira. Samira's awesome for the backstage announcing. She's a really, really good ring announcer, and I think we're going to see her transition into that sooner than later. I think she's awesome for that stuff. So Samira's great. I love, and he's one of the few, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody, I have grown to love the work of Mike Falvo. Mike Falvo is what all announcers on the Indies should hope to be. Mike Falvo is just so fucking good. Really. He really is. And I haven't met him yet. We've traded some pleasantries on social media. I was flabbergasted that he even knew who I was. But he is so damn good. And he does, whether it's sports, MMA, MLW TV, Mike Falvo hits a home run every fucking time. Every time. He's really, that's another guy, deserves his flowers. He's probably a galaxy in our universe of stars, and I probably will never get to talk to him. But that's a guy that I would just love to spend a day or an afternoon with. And I think also we have the same humor. So Mike Falvo, I'm a big fan of. I really like Rob Williams, Bob Culture Podcast, BCP Plus, right? Rob Williams, I think, is getting credit for everything but his commentary. He and Kimmy are doing Warriors of Wrestling, and he does ISPW when it's one of the bigger shows, when he's not filming it. And he's a jack of all trades and has mastered some. honest. Rob Williams, and Rob Williams is probably the only legitimate independent journalist in the tri-state area. I could feel people's butts getting hurt as I said that, but that's kind of what it is. So those are all guys I love, and like I said, I would love to do just me. I really believe, and this is not an ego thing with this sentence, I really believe me and Rob Williams doing commentary for a match, me on play-by-play, Rob on color. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's it. It's never going to happen because here in the tri-state area, everybody has their teams, their favorites, and I get that, and companies have their identity. But I really think there's something to behold. I mean, that's one of those professional things, right? That I'm sure at one point, JR wanted to work with Lawler instead of Ventura or vice versa, So that's kind of where I'm at with that stuff. Let's take it now to Instagram. Okay. I feel like this is very rude, me looking down and being on my phone. I swear I'm not texting. I'm just trying to get my stuff in here from Instagram. Let's take a look at this. Okay. 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 Here we go. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay. I'm just trying to make sure I'm navigating this the proper way. Okay. Here we are. And got to scrub to like all the responses. Let's see. Okay. This one comes from William Wyeth. Why are you so dapper? Thank you for that. I going back to the suit thing, I believe that when you're in front of a camera, you should always look your best. So real quick, one of my favorite singers in the world, Robert Palmer. Right when I got into Robert Palmer as a teenager, when I was starting to get into the older music and become the old soul, which is a term that I hate, Robert Palmer passed away, and I took this death very seriously. Robert Palmer, if I'm not mistaken, passed away in the same time span as Johnny Cash and John Ritter. And when John Ritter died, it was a massive thing. It was a big thing. Obviously, John Ritter was a huge American television icon, and Robert Palmer died that week, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle. Then Johnny Cash passed away, and totally eclipsed both passings, right? Because death comes in threes and things like that. Anyway, Robert Palmer was always well dressed, from the music videos to the concerts to TV, and he got asked about that. And this was around the time of the basketball game that I just mentioned, and starting to announce games and get into broadcasting, if you could say that. And I'm paraphrasing, but Robert Palmer was quoted or phrased in saying, I felt like anytime I was in front of television or people, you should always look your best. So I kind of kept up with that through the years. So anytime I had a television interview, a music video, or even a live concert, I always try to dress my best. And I read that, and because I was so into him at the time, and I still am to this day, I kept that with me. And that might be just as much as it's Ric Flair and him from a presentation standpoint, with how I feel like I have to look at all times, even if I just get a shape up, because you could, it's your hair, you could play with it, right? So even if I just got a shape up, as long as I got the right outfit, off to the races I could go. So that's the answer to that. Hair Dye Harry wants to know, favorite match you've called, interview conducted. Favorite match that I've called, probably Rob Vegas versus Jay Lethal, like favorite. The best, Rob Vegas versus Sebastian Cage. And then for the interview conducted, it's a tie. When I interviewed Dan Moff and he starts cursing and going off the rails, because I thought Morgan was going to be pissed, and I thought I was going to have to do it all over again, because Morgan was really, really big on people cursing in interviews or not cursing, and I thought he was going to get mad, but then again, it's Danny Moff, so shame on me. And when I interviewed Darius Carter at the end of the Super 8 tournament, that to me was the best interview I ever did, and the best interview I ever conducted, and my favorite. So that's the answer to that. Purple Best Wishes shirt guy wants to know, when are you bringing back the 4 Life podcast with Bosch? To be honest with you, Bosch, the 4 Life podcast, I loved it. That was my first podcast that I did with Bosch in 2013. when we started the podcast, there was so much happening with wrestling. The network was coming out, WrestleMania 30. Impact was changing. It was still TNA at the time, actually. Impact was changing. Lots of things were happening in MLW. A lot of people from the indies were going to NXT. A lot of people got released in 2014 to pay for the network and the budget cuts and things like that. There was so much happening, and then it was a double-edged sword for me, and part of it was my fault. I let my personal life get in the way, and I feel like I ultimately ruined the For Life podcast. I really do feel like that. The number two part of it was, and I was feeling this way while I was feeling the way I was about my life. I felt like there's an era of wrestling where nothing was happening, where wrestling was just kind of at this stalemate. It was just that we were watching just to watch because it was part of our DNA, and not oh, what's going to happen next, kind of like what's happening now. So I just kind of like, I wasn't feeling myself or life or wrestling, so I just kind of didn't care about it the way I did, and that's my fault. I've always held that against myself, because Bosch is so talented, and I want everybody to go subscribe to his YouTube channel, Bosch World Productions, Bosch Star Productions. As an editor, Bosch is so good. He's literally Hollywood level good. There's nothing he can't do. His application and dedication to editing and his work ethic is phenomenal. And I felt like I was stifling that also. And he's my brother, I would love to do it. I don't know what Bosch's schedule is like these days, because I know at one point he was doing overnights and stuff like that, but I'd love to do it. I now have the time for a second podcast. I sure as hell don't have the time for a third, but to bring back For Life, yeah, I could do that. And now, I guess it's a 10-year boom, right? Wrestling's hot right now. There's tons of stuff to talk about. So even if we just reviewed an old show on down weeks, who knows? But I just know this: when you do your podcast, you do your podcast for life. That's all I know. Fight Every Effing Day wants to know, most you have laughed during an interview. Okay, during an interview, the one that pops out to me the quickest is Adam Payne, who's now just Kerr, Big Kerr, Adam Kerr, my brother, was doing this gimmick where he was sending fat people to Canada. It was a play on the Trump election. And he broke me so much with the way he was talking about fat people that we did like 10 takes. He just got me. And then during a match at ECPW, a guy had his head shaved. Legit. He lost the match. He had his head shaved in the ring. And I was fine. I was selling oh my God, this guy's getting his head shaved. He must be embarrassed. He's being emasculated. Someone in the crowd, and it was a pretty good house too, so the fact that he got heard is pretty crazy, just shouts out, "Oh shit!" And for some reason, I lost it. Captain Payne, Steve Walsh, who I love, plays that clip like every couple months rather, because he still pops for that. I lost it. Like, I literally falling my ass out of the chair. Gino Caruso is looking at me like I'm going insane. He calls me the hyena when I laugh like that. The interview that got the most reaction from my friend Will Strauss. Interview that got the most. I guess it would have been the Dan Moff one, because when the Dan Moff one aired, that was the first time I felt viral, that things got shared on Facebook and Twitter, and then like a few people turned it into a meme for a little bit, so that was cool. Dominican Breakfast says, pickles and peanut butter on a sandwich. What is wrong with you people? What? Fight Every Effing Day again. Best ice cream flavor. I don't know about best. My favorite, chocolate chip cookie dough. Always. I've been on a big pralines and cream kick lately, but chocolate chip cookie dough, man. I will never forget the night I was going through it, and me and Sable went down and got ice cream, and I drank half the car, and then she got all pissed off. That always sticks in my mind for some reason. Worst finishing move. Huh. The worst finishing move. I was not a fan of when Cena did. Remember, for like a year, Cena had the punch from the corner when he first came back from Hollywood, when he did the first full tour. Was not a fan of that. And I also didn't like going back to Crash Holly because I was such a fan of his. When he was Mad Mikey in NWA TNA, he would jump from the top rope. His opponent would be supine, would be laying in the middle of the ring. And he would jump from the top rope and then land on his feet. And then do a splash. Hated it. Yeah. Vengeful V wants to know, what's it like being the baddest bitch alive? Baby, it is so hard. It is so hard being me. No, I'm kidding. That's Vanessa. I love Vanessa. One of my dearest friends from high school. Yeah, but it's hard out there being this handsome. All right. Exo Lily wants to know, with all of your achievements in life, what would you say is your proudest? Well, that's very philosophical and deep, and like my dog died. You know, accomplishments in life is subjective. Because they're measured by actual accomplishments and by your own definition, and you learn that when you get to be an adult. Accomplishments are by your own definition. I My parents have said to me in the last few years that they really enjoy that when other people speak about me to them, they talk about how wonderful of a, I don't know why this is get me emotional, how wonderful of a person I am, or how good or nice of a person I am, or the way I treat children, and stuff like that. And that for some reason, has stuck with me in the last couple of years. Uh, Look, guys, in wrestling, I might not make it. I might not make it. A lot of us might not make it. But if I go down, if I walk down Crime Alley and my pearls get snatched and somebody comes up to me, if everybody's okay with talking about how good I was of a person, and how I try to be my best and my most upfront with everybody, I'll be okay. I'll be all right. I'll make it somewhere else. So that's, being a good person is always I always try to believe in PMA, positive mental attitude. I believe in being the change you want to see, and I try to put that forward. I really do every day. My dear friend Matt Lynch wants to know, who is on your Mount Rushmore of indie wrestling in the New York, New Jersey metro area? That's tough. As workers, Dan Moff, because of his work at Ace and JP, Jay Lethal, Darius Carter, and believe it or not, it's older than all those guys, either Ooh La La or Metal Maniac, because Metal Maniac was the first indie guy that I can remember seeing in the magazines. And when I was a kid, reading about the Metal Maniac, feuding with the reborn Jimmy Snuka. This is the new version of Jimmy Snuka. The Metal Maniac is taking Jimmy Snuka places he's never been before since Don Morocco. So those are the guys that I gotta say, and it's subjective. Tone Bone Forever, Tony Fatu. By the way, False Finish Productions, for all your production needs for independent wrestling and for podcasting, Spot Monkey Radio, and Talking Toys with Tony. False Finish Productions on YouTube. My dream gig. Here's two. One is pretty general, and one is I've never said out loud before. I think I've only said it to Xavier. If I can work television wrestling every week, if I can live off of wrestling. Jay Lethal said that to me to us at a seminar, and that changed my life, because then it was beyond just WWE, a contract, making it to TV. If I can make a living off of wrestling, that's my dream gig. That's my dream gig. And I've said that to people. If I can make a little bit more than I make now through pro wrestling, that's my dream. To live off of pro wrestling. You know, to support my mom, myself through pro wrestling, that's my dream. So be it through an AEW contract, WWE, whatever facilitates that. Unfortunately, as an announcer on the indies, not going to happen. If I wrestled, I'd have to be pretty damn good, and I probably would have just been making that money now, you know, just because it's tenure, it's skill. But yeah, that's it. The number two of it is I would love to do, and that's kind of what the ethos of this show is. If I could do a weekly kind of an inside the actors studio with wrestlers from every company, AEW, WWE, Impact, MLW, the indies, and make that air and kind of be like the James Lipton of wrestling, that's what I'd like to do. That would be the ultimate dream gig for me. Those two things. That's what I would do. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, because I wanted to have a more methodical, philosophical, biographical take on the journey of those in the business. You know, we take in the moments so much, but the journey. You know, I want to talk to Dan Moff. You know, yeah, he's done the interview. He did a great interview with Go Pro Wrestling. Go give them a shout out too. But you know, all types of guys. There's so much we can all learn in the business and in life too. There's so much from wrestling that translates to life that, again, unless you're in it, you're not going to know. The Real Chills wants to know, what did you think I would do at this moment when you're standing before me? That's Billy Vera and the Beaters. At this moment, that song was on Family Ties, and of course from Ted 2. She opens her question with that, and then she goes, when did you realize that you had the world's best announcer voice? God bless you. We've got tonight. I don't think I have the world's best announcer voice, but I realized that I had something when I started doing impressions. I'm a pretty decent mimic, and I kind of knew somewhere between 8 and up that I had something going on. People always commented on my voice. Girls always commented on my voice. I don't think I have the world's best announcing voice, but it's kind of like my voice also has ranges too. Like, I'm aware of that. Like, I feel like I sound like this all the time, but then every once in a while I got to turn it on to this week at Applebee's. You know, you have that. I don't know. I always knew that I had a voice, and I'm really thankful for that. You know, sometimes we have gifts and we don't know them because they're not these full frontal things that we get to wear for everybody. Secrets 224 wants to know, at what point did you know that being involved in wrestling further than just being a spectator was your passion? I tried to get into indie wrestling in 2011, I think it was, for really stupid reasons, all on my own. I just walked after like 2, maybe 3 shows. I didn't get the satisfaction doing it. I kind of did the first time, but I was messing up left and right. That I did when I tried it again in 2014. I just felt like when I tried pro wrestling in 2014, I felt like if I didn't do it, I was never going to do it. That was one of the few times in my life that I was like, if not now, then when? You're never going to know until you do it. And that's what I did. I went and I did it. And it's been a blessing ever since. And the first time that I got to like open a show and do the in-ring stuff and just feel the crowd. I'm a junkie for performing, man. So the first times that I got to do that first summer of being on the indies, I loved it. That's when I knew. That's when I knew that I was making the right decision, you know. Sometimes we're out there. It's like being on the road. It's like being a musician. It's like being an actor. You're out there going and chopping at it, keeping on grinding, and then there's those moments where you're like, yeah, this is where I belong. This is where I want to be. What has been your favorite moment commentating to date? That's from my buddy A-Rod out there in Arizona. Big brother Tonio out there. My favorite moment commentating. I really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed. I've had a lot of favorite moments. I've been really blessed. I really enjoyed the first time. Yeah, yeah. This is it. Okay, my favorite moment. Thinking about it, the first time my mom and my dad together got to see me perform. Yeah, that's it. 2019, November 2019, maybe December, just before the pandemic. It was Crossroads, and I was the host of Crossroads. We were kind of doing the whole WrestleMania thing, and we had different people hosting it. And up to that year, it was this time they wanted me to do it. Mike wanted me to do it, and my mom and my dad were there together. And then I got to be in the Chance for a Lifetime Rumble, and Adam threw me out because he doesn't love me as much as he says. So that's probably the one. That's probably the one. Anytime that my family gets to come, my brother Joseph, who without my brother Joseph, I wouldn't even be a wrestling fan because I was annoying him so much one day that he's like, "Come watch this," and it was wrestling. So we fuss and fight like brothers, but I love him no matter what. So I'm always thankful to him for that, amongst other things. So anytime my family, whether it was Joseph or friends, got to see me perform, those are some of the favorites. But that's the one that sticks out. You know, uh, when my parents got to see it, that was pretty cool. Lisa Almeida wants to know if I'm working WrestleMania weekend. I am not. I'm not working WrestleMania weekend. I did it the last time they were here, whatever that was, 2017, 2018, when they were at MetLife. And it was a goal, and I kind of checked it off, and I've never really had the desire to do it again. If I tried hard enough, I probably could get a booking. But I'd be willing to go work Mania if it means getting to meet you for the first time. So maybe next year I'll do that. Red Star 89 wants to know, what is your favorite pizza topping? Pepperoni. Always two pepperoni slices, one Snapple iced tea, lemon, or two pepperonis and a Coke, extra garlic powder. Anything else is just nonsense. You're saying your pizza's whack. Red Diva 89. Where is your Woosah place? My Woosah place used to be the amphitheater, FDR Drive. When I was having a tough time, needed to reflect, need to get those single wive moments, clutching your sweaters, listen to the iPod. That was it. That was where I'd always hide. So that was it. I haven't. It's funny you say that. I haven't found a Woosah place since then. I mean, but I always feel good and feel my realest when I'm inside of a wrestling ring. But yeah, I spent a lot of time uh, sitting on the dock of a bay over there at the FDR Drive, the amphitheater, and then gentrification. Uh Sable wants to know, what's your favorite? Wow, that's for F&B. What's your favorite restaurant? My favorite restaurant does not exist anymore. My favorite restaurant used to be, well, hold on. My favorite restaurant is El Quijote. It's on 23rd, in between 7th and 8th. It's it's Spaniard cuisine, and they closed for a lot of years. They've reopened, but I haven't gone back since they reopened. But that is my absolute favorite restaurant in the world. I grew up in that restaurant. I'd have done my birthday in that restaurant before we used to hang out when I was a kid and teenager, and your parents take you out for dinner. That was my go-to place. I've taken my friends dates there. Um, we never went because I always let you pick. But yeah, that's my favorite restaurant in the world, and I haven't been since they reopened. So maybe one day, if I let you pay the bill, which is never going to happen. If you really want to impress me, wine me and dine me. That's where you got to take me. El Quijote, 23rd between 7th and 8th. So, it's true. Since they've closed, I haven't had a favorite restaurant. I really don't, because I love food. I love all places. I know what to order wherever I go. Um, but for the sake of who asked the question, let's just put it like this: El Quijote, Remedy. How's that? E. McFly wants to know, what keeps Cheyenne going. I think I think what keeps me going is what keeps all um, performance artists going, and that's the dream, right? The dream that you can make it, that you can do it. That's what I think uh, keeps me going. I don't. I'm very aware of the fact that I may be on the Indies forever, or as long as I decide to stay on them. But yeah, that's what keeps me going. That I can make it. That the Jay Lethal, Sonny Kiss, Eddie Kingston, MJF, Damian Priest, AR Fox, Drastic and Ortiz. That's what keeps me going. These are all people that I was around and they made it. And under the right opportunity and circumstances, I got as much a chance as anybody. So that's what keeps me going. If you're asking about from an indie standpoint, when it comes to life, my mom. Everything I do in this life is for my mom. So there's that. Let's see. I just got a slew of questions from Stephanie Gardenier, if I'm saying that right, who's a published author, by the way. The greatest upset of all time. Greatest upset of all time. Probably 1-2-3 Kid beating Razor Ramon, right? That's the one. The most unsung is probably when Barry Horowitz beats Candido. Who is a rising star in the independent circuit and mainstream circuit? In the independent circuit, Casey Navarro, Darius Carter, Dan Moff, and Steph DeLander are the ones that come to mind. A rising star in WWE, I mean, Trick Williams, Carmelo Hayes. I think seeing Chad Gable come to prominence finally this year has been excellent, even though he's a little stifled right now. LA Knight coming into prominence the last year, amazing. Favorite women's dream matchup? Well, it happened. Trish versus Charlotte. I got it. That was what I wanted. I didn't think I was going to get it, and then I got it, and it was awesome. So that's probably the one, and it happened. Favorite wrestling collectible that I own? Secretly, probably the green card Billy Gunn Hasbro. Secretly, because I got it autographed. It's in such great condition, and when Billy autographed it, it's exactly like the autograph on the card. Because back then, when you bought the WWF figures, the autograph of the wrestler would be on the card of the toy, and when he signed it in the paint pen, they look identical. So that secretly might be it. If money was no object, what wrestling collectible would you own? Easy, Ric Flair robe. I would probably have a Ric Flair robe. I will never own the black butterfly robe from AEW Hidden Treasures because Conrad Thompson owns it, as does the WWE in a partnership ownership thing. But I will tell you which robe. The WrestleMania 8 robe. To me, that's the robe that's now in the position of the silver butterfly robe. The WrestleMania 8 robe Ric Flair wore had it specifically made for WrestleMania 8 in Indianapolis for the Hoosier Dome when he wrestled the Macho Man Randy Savage. The robe was worn less than a dozen times. Rick wore it several times on television like Superstars and Wrestling Challenge following losing to Randy Savage, and it was last seen when he toured Japan when it was the WWF versus War Super Show. I think the last time he took on Tenryu in a 2 out of 3 falls match, and the only match that I can remember seeing Ric Flair wear actual wrist tape. The robe was never seen after that. I don't know if he gave it to charity. I don't know who owns it. I've seen many Ric Flair robes owned, displayed. There's the blue and silver one from WCW 97 that's in the barbershop here in New York City. The pink one from WrestleMania 23 or 22 rather recently popped up at the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in upstate New York. Of course, Darius Rucker owns the Galaxy robe. The Jungle robe now goes to the guy that used to own the black and silver butterfly robe. My boy, GWC. He owns the purple robe, which is my second favorite robe. So yeah, that's the one that I would try to buy, the WrestleMania 8 robe, the red and silver. Because I wasn't prepared for that question, I can't show a photo of it on the live cut. So you'll probably have to see it in post. So yeah, there's that. Um, just doing a final walkthrough here. Final walkthrough here. Questions. This is the voice Cheyenne Ortiz, and you're here for the following conversation scheduled for one fall Q&A fan takeover edition. Here on the following conversation is scheduled for one fall. Don't you go change it. Uh, ladies and gentlemen, if, and I mean if, I am not mistaken, that concludes our episode, ladies and germs. That is it. We're going to do this in less than an hour and a half. Thank you to everybody. I mean, Facebook, Twitter. I hope that I kept you engrossed for the whole hour. I hope that this comes out as good as I want it to be. I'm not going to have any graphics airing. I'm comfortable enough to air this as is, if you will. I don't think I'm going to edit this in post. So, yeah, I mean, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button to get up to date. Please be sure to follow me on all forms of social media, and I want to give you the exact run through of that right now, while I also give you the run through of a few special people that I would love for you to take a look at as well. So I'm going to start with the others first because I am a selfless man, if you will. I also want to point out that I've even seen the legendary Starcade 83 robe been purchased, but never have seen the that WrestleMania 8 robe. Bosch Star Productions, Bosch's World, and many other vlog programs, including the Journey to Big Events, monthly blogs, Boschy Awards, birthday extravaganzas, and more on Bosch Star Productions. The one-man production team that is Purple Best Wishes shirt guy, Bosch Star Productions. Be sure to get your merchandise, redbubble.com/people/Bosch Star. And be sure to subscribe to Bosch Star Productions, my man. Without him, this show is not possible. Of course, you can catch me on the likes of Instagram, instagram.com/Cheyenne the Voice. You can catch me on the Twitter, tweet me on the twit on the X. You can catch me at Cheyenne Ortiz _ on Twitter. You can catch me on my Facebook fan page, facebook.com/Cheyenne Ortiz Voice, to be exact. Cheyenne Ortiz Voice. Give me a follow there. You can also catch me, of course, on my YouTube channel. That is, of course, Cheyenne the Voice on YouTube. I want you to give follows to Samira on Instagram, at Lisi Almeida, at Around the Ropes Podcast. I want to shout out so many people. Shane Fair, Ace Pro Wrestling. And if you want to catch me doing my thing live, you can catch me this coming Saturday. I'm going to be doing all the backstage correspondent for the ECWA Super 8, a historic tournament where the ECWA champion Darius Carter enters the actual Super 8 tournament, amongst more follies to be announced during the week. And next week, Ace Pro Wrestling, Teaneck, New Jersey, at the Knights of Columbus, 829 Windsor Road in Teaneck, New Jersey. Destined for greatness, where Rick Recon will take on Darius Carter with the Ace Heavyweight title on the line. That and so much more. And of course, you can catch me on all forms of social media. And be sure to check me out next week on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the following conversation has been scheduled for one fall.